Belgrave, Novostra. Ms. Medici, you've officially purchased the island. It's completely off the grid. Once you're in, no one can find you. Also, the custom-made family you requested is ready. They're professionally trained to give you nothing but unconditional love. The staff member's voice came through the phone, smooth and respectful. Yara Medici hummed in response. I'll move in after I wrap things up here. 30 days. She hung up and glanced at her reflection. Wrapped in a pristine white wedding gown, she looked almost unreal. The fabric sparkled with embedded diamonds, each one an obvious fortune. Ms. Medici, have you finished trying on your gown? Mr. Lopez has been waiting outside to see you. The sales associate's soft voice pulled her back to reality. She hesitated, then said, I'm ready. The associate swept back the curtain. Yara turned just in time to catch Mateo Lopez's expression. For a split second, his eyes flickered with something, maybe awe. Yara, you look stunning. He froze, then stepped closer, wrapping his arms around her. His voice wavered, thick with emotion. 7 years. And I'm finally marrying you. How much must someone love another to sound like that? Still dazed, she barely registered the sales associate chirping beside her. Ms. Medici, Mr. Lopez personally designed this gown. He handpicked every diamond, each one worth a fortune. And there are 99 of them. Most grooms grow impatient waiting, but Mr. Lopez has been involved in every step without a single complaint. He truly loves you. Yara glanced at Mateo, taking it all in. His eyes held nothing but love, so different from the cold, untouchable air of Belgrave's elite the media made him out to be. Not just the world, but even she had been fooled. After leaving the boutique, they walked outside together. Ever the gentleman, Mateo held the car door open, shielding the top so she wouldn't hit her head. Once she was settled, he shut it gently before slipping in beside her. As the car rolled forward, his assistant, Kevin, started his report. Mr. Lopez, the woman who tried sneaking into your bed has been dealt with. She won't be coming back to Belgrave. Mateo's voice turned sharp. Handle these things privately. Don't upset Yara. Then, just as quickly, his tone softened. He reached for her hand. Yara, don't be mad. She never touched me. Her perfume got on me, but I washed it off 10 times before coming home. I swear, you're the only one in my heart, you know that. She did. Women had been throwing themselves at him for years, yet he never crossed the line. He always kept his distance. But knowing that didn't bring her any comfort. She forced a small smile. I know. Mateo didn't notice anything off. Still holding her hand, he pulled out his phone to check his messages. Then, suddenly. Stop the car. The tires screeched. Before Yara could ask what was wrong, Mateo had already thrown the door open. Something urgent. Kevin will take you home, okay? It wasn't a question. Without hesitation, he left her behind. Yara watched Mateo disappear, then pulled out her phone and opened Helen's social media page. A new post. A picture of a swollen ankle. The caption. Twisted my ankle. It hurts so much. Her vision blurred with heat. Mateo's sudden urgency made sense now. Why was it always Helen? Yara had been engaged twice. First, to Stephen Varga, heir to Varga Corporation. Their families had arranged it when they were kids, and she'd fallen for him at first sight. For years, she followed him, loved him, but his heart had never been hers. It belonged to her younger sister, Helen. She was just an obstacle. For 7 years, she endured his indifference, until she couldn't anymore. And when she finally let go, she saw the one who had always been there. Mateo. While she chased Stephen, while she broke over and over, Mateo was the one who picked up the pieces. He seemed devoted, never asking for anything in return. Just waiting. Always waiting. So she chose him. Cleared out her heart and let him in. She thought, this time, I got it right. Then, one day, she overheard him talking to a friend. You don't even love Yara. Are you really going to marry her? Mateo's voice, thick with alcohol, was quiet. Yeah. It's the only way Helen can be happy. His friend sighed. You're unbelievable. You loved Helen in secret for years, but when she fell for Stephen and was set to marry him, you went after his fiancé instead. Congrats, you got Yara to step aside for your precious Helen. But do you even realize what you've done? You just threw away your own future. Mateo's voice softened, but his words cut deep. As long as Helen is happy, I'll do anything. Standing outside the door, Yara felt like she'd been struck by lightning. Mateo's 7 years of devotion, his tenderness, his unwavering love, it was all a lie. His heart had always belonged to Helen. How noble. He was willing to sacrifice his entire life just to make Helen happy. He played his role so well she never once doubted him. Never imagined his love was just another illusion, that he only pursued her to clear the way for Helen. That night, she stood in the rain until dawn, crying until there was nothing left. From as far back as she could remember, her parents had adored Helen, leaving no love for her. As she grew up, the fiancé she gave her heart to loved Helen too, never once seeing her. And now, even the man she thought truly loved her, Mateo, had only ever cared about Helen. Everyone loved Helen. No one loved Yara. That night, she made a choice. If there was no one in Belgrave who wanted her, she'd leave. She'd disappear to some remote, uninhabited island, cut off from the world. She'd pay for a family, a boyfriend, people made just for her, and live out the rest of her life in peace. Even if they were only there because she paid them, at least they'd stay. From this day on, her parents, Stephen, Mateo, they meant nothing to her. The car pulled up in front of the house Mateo had set up for their married life. As soon as Yara stepped out, she started packing. She tossed out everything she had ever left in this house, wiping away every trace of herself. Then, she started preparing to erase her identity, deleting accounts, cutting ties, anything to make sure they'd never find her again. No choice. She had to go back to the Medici residence. An hour later, she stood at the entrance. Her own home, yet she didn't even have a key. Even knocking took effort, because she knew she wasn't welcome here. The housekeeper took her sweet time answering the door. When Yara stepped inside, she spotted her parents, Benjamin and Milada, pacing anxiously in the living room. The second they saw her, their faces twisted with annoyance. You stay away for years, and now you come crawling back? Why can't you be more like Helen? You were born from the same mother, yet the difference between you two is night and day. The same old scolding. She'd heard it for over 20 years. Now, she didn't care. Expression blank, she acted like she hadn't heard a thing. She headed upstairs, grabbed her documents, and slipped them into her bag before making her way back down. Her indifference only made Benjamin and Milada angrier. Their words cut deeper. So now you just ignore us? Do you even acknowledge your parents anymore? No respect, no gratitude, how did we end up with such a useless daughter? Just as their shouting hit its peak, the front door suddenly swung open. Mateo stepped inside, Helen cradled in his arms. The moment he saw Yara standing in the center of the living room, his grip tightened. She glanced at them, close, familiar, then looked away, utterly indifferent. Her face was unreadable, but a sudden panic clawed at his chest. Quickly, he set Helen down and stepped toward her. Yara, don't misunderstand. Helen twisted her ankle, and I just happened to be nearby, so I brought her back. He trailed off, and Yara didn't even bother pointing out the obvious holes in his excuse. Helen, ever the actress, chimed in with a saccharine smile. Stephen's been away on a business trip, or I wouldn't have troubled Mateo. Yara, don't take it the wrong way. Benjamin and Milada instantly flocked to Helen, their faces full of concern. Helen wasn't done. I've been spoiled since I was little, so even a tiny sprain hurts so much. Thankfully, Mateo got to me in time. He ran through a dozen red lights just to rush me to the hospital, and now he's even brought me home. I feel awful for being such a burden. She smiled sweetly, eyes flicking to Yara, waiting for her to snap, to break, to show even a flicker of jealousy. But Yara didn't flinch. Didn't react. Completely unfazed. Helen didn't get the reaction she wanted. A new idea flashed in her eyes. If it weren't for Mateo, I don't even know how swollen my ankle would have gotten. Since we're all here, why don't we have dinner together? Consider it my way of saying thanks. Her tone was bright, cheerful, a sharp contrast to Yara's silence. No one asked Yara if she wanted to stay. The decision was already made for her. When dinner was finally served, she took her seat at the table and immediately noticed every dish was spicy. Helen's favorite. She wasn't surprised. She had once told Benjamin and Milada, in passing, that her stomach couldn't handle spicy food. Their response: "Stop being so dramatic." Later, when she was with Mateo, he had always been careful with her food. He even learned to cook dishes that wouldn't upset her stomach. But tonight, though he sat right beside her, he never even glanced her way. His attention was fixed entirely on Helen. At the slightest movement, he rushed to pass her a napkin, to serve her food. Yara suddenly remembered how, back when Mateo came to the Medici residence for her, his gaze would always drift toward Helen. How, on Helen's birthday, he'd casually ask about her favorite things, as if it were just a passing thought. How, whenever Helen fell ill, he'd suddenly have urgent business to attend to. A bitter smile tugged at Yara's lips. It had always been so obvious. How had she only seen it now? But no matter how much Mateo loved Helen, he had no right to use Yara as a pawn. His deception, giving up his entire life just for Helen's sake, hurt far worse than Stephen's outright rejection. Dinner ended. She barely touched her food. The drive back was silent. She was thinking about changing her name and cutting ties for good. He, most likely, was still lost in the warmth of his time with Helen. Finally, Yara broke the silence. "I'm not going home. I need to go somewhere else." Mateo snapped out of his thoughts, turning to her. His voice was gentle. "Where do you need to go? I'll come with you." "No need," she replied, shaking her head. But he reached for her hand, firm. "I can't let you go alone." She didn't argue. Just typed the address into the GPS and let him drive. The road was quiet. Before long, they neared their destination. Then, his phone rang. The moment he answered, Milada's voice cut through. "Mateo, Helen's wound is infected. She has a fever. Can you take her to the hospital?" "I'll be right there." He immediately moved to turn the car around but hesitated, glancing at Yara. "Yara, He struggled for words, torn. But before he could finish, she beat him to it. "Go ahead. I can walk the rest of the way." Without waiting for a response, she pushed open the door and stepped out. He watched for a second. Then, his concern for Helen won out. He restarted the car and sped off. Yara stood there, staring at the fading taillights, swallowing the bitterness rising in her chest. "Mateo, if you had just driven a little farther, you would have seen my destination was the courthouse. You would have realized I was erasing myself from this life. But you didn't, because you never cared." The process was swift. Once it was done, Yara took a cab back to the house. Not long after, Mateo showed up, a box of cheese tarts in hand, his face full of apology. "Yara, you'll be my wife soon. That means Helen will be family too, so of course I'll take extra care of her. Don't misunderstand, I've chased after you for so many years. You should know you're the only one in my heart." Yara didn't know how he could lie so effortlessly. That bakery was in South Belgrave, halfway across the city. Their cheese tarts were famous, so popular that people waited in line for hours just to get a box. And Mateo had gone through all that trouble. Not for her. For Helen. Yara was exhausted. She didn't have the energy to play along anymore. Shaking her head, she turned down his attempt at reconciliation for the first time. "I'm not feeling well. I'm going to rest." Without waiting for his reaction, she headed straight to her room. Mateo hesitated. She was obviously upset, but he didn't think much of it. He figured she was still sulking about him leaving for Helen earlier. So, to make it up to her, he cleared his schedule and took her out, candlelit dinner, luxury shopping, and finally, a movie. They had just settled into their seats when a group of girls walked in. Right at the center was Helen. Mateo's expression didn't change, but Yara noticed how distracted he got. His gaze kept drifting toward Helen. By the time the movie was halfway through, Yara was sure he hadn't absorbed a single scene. She suddenly called his name. Mateo blinked, snapping out of his daze. What is it, Yara? I'm not feeling well. Let's go.